Ladies and gentlemen, Alina Habba says she's investigating New Jersey Governor AG over immigration enforcement. This is a Politico article. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely huge. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. You will hear from Alina Habba in a second. On Hannity, interim U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba announced late Thursday that her office is investigating Governor Phil Murphy and State Attorney General Matt Platkin for not cooperating with federal immigration authorities. The investigation into the two New Jersey Democrats underscores the Trump administration's hardline immigration enforcement efforts. Actually, they're just enforcing existing laws. Habba made the announcement in an interview with Sean Hannity on Fox News. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. You will hear the announcement this second. Hit subscribe, and we'll talk about this in further analysis in a moment. To my super chat, by the way, thank you.
Yes, attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, is here with more. Is that true? Do you have proof of that? Have you heard that to be true?
Let me give you a very brief summary of what we do know. We know that the governor has on his website currently do's and don'ts for his local state of law enforcement. Those do's and don'ts instruct them not to cooperate with illegal immigrants who have administrative warrants that have been issued by the court after due process saying that they are no longer welcome here. They have gone through the court system. They are to be deported. It is instructing them to go against our federal rules, our executive orders. And I am unfortunately going to announce on your show tonight, Sean, and I want it to be a warning for everybody, that I have instructed my office today to open an investigation into Governor Murphy, to open an investigation into Attorney General Platkin, who has also instructed the state police not to assist any of our federal, and they list our federal agencies that are under my direction, the FBI, the DEA, all these individuals that are trying to clean up our streets in New Jersey, not to cooperate. That will no longer stand. Pam Bondi has made it clear, and so has our president, that we are to take all violent criminals and criminals out of this country and to completely enforce federal law. And anybody who does get in that way, in the way of what we are doing, which is not political, it is simply against crime, will be charged in the state of New Jersey for obstruction, for concealment, and I will come after them hard. Those investigations will start immediately. The governor and the attorney general.
Let me ask you, Alina, because this is a really important question, because I have felt all during the Biden years, we had wide open borders, known terrorists, murderers, rapists, cartel members, gang members. We see all these Americans murdered, raped, victims of violent crime. And in my view, both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and I'll add Mayorkas to the list, they have blood on their hands.
These are existing immigration laws that Democrats helped pass in Congress. These are existing immigration laws. Now, I want dreamers to be citizens, okay? I'm conservative on most things. I don't know if it's a conservative vantage point to simply want immigration laws to be enforced. That's just basic logic. Enforce immigration laws. If you want to amend the immigration laws, then simply do so in Congress. But Democrats would rather fall back on plausible deniability and the status quo and looking the other way and giving tacit approval to millions upon millions breaking the law. That's including American citizens who are Democratic politicians. Let's continue.
How is it not aiding and abetting in law breaking if you're a sanctuary city or state, or if you are ordering your law enforcement not to cooperate with federal agents when the Supremacy Clause gives the clout to the federal government over local officials anyway?
That's correct. And let me tell you, to my state officers in New Jersey, some of whom I met with today, I appreciate and respect what you can and cannot do. They don't have Title VIII authority. I understand that. But what they have been instructed to do by the AG and the governor, as is on their website, is to actually not even make the phone call to ICE when they run their record and see that there is a valid warrant, an administrative warrant ordering deportation. That is putting the people in my state in jeopardy, in a serious predicament, and our, frankly, state officers are now being held with their hands behind their back because they have people using politics over crime and the safety of the American people. Sean, you know how serious I am about law and order. I have been on the other side of it. I will literally just protect our people. That is what this is about, American safety. And if anybody wants to use politics or their position to go and violate any federal law or any executive order in this state, and that includes sanctuary cities, and I'm looking at you, Paterson, New Jersey, I will be investigating you. And if you did commit a crime, if you ordered obstruction, if you are ordering concealment and harboring, you will be charged.
Well, I'm going to give a nice.
So what Democrats and Democratic Party politicians do is they give tacit approval to lawbreaking. They can simply enact laws in Congress that address their value system. There are a great many Democrats who think that the current immigration system or enforcing immigration laws is immoral. Democrats, their political ideology is based on morality. Okay, the morality, unfortunately, doesn't correlate to actually passing legislation that represents their moral view, because they know the country in general won't agree with their viewpoint. That's why they don't touch a Green New Deal or banning fracking or single payer or all of these things with a 10-foot pole during presidential contests. If a Democratic politician in Congress, if a Democratic senator or congressperson or representative thinks that the current system is immoral or unjust, why don't you simply pass a bill stating if an undocumented individual commits a crime, the president, the executive, the federal government doesn't have the authority to deport them. Just pass that legislation, Democrats. We know exactly why they won't, because it seems outlandish to the entire country and to the entire world, but not to the Democratic Party. So what they do is, instead of passing legislation that specifically states if you commit a crime, you're undocumented, you're not a citizen, you came unlawfully, instead of just passing legislation that says you are protected from deportation, what they do is they find every single way to obstruct the enforcement of existing laws. Again, I wanted President Trump offered Dreamers citizenship. I think that's fantastic. But Democrats said, no, we won't build a wall. So instead, they harbor millions upon millions of undocumented individuals in cities, major cities, that Elon Musk and others have stated utilize individuals to win local, state, and presidential contests. So anyway, let's continue. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice little warning to the AG and the governor. If you want to go against Alina Habba, good luck, because she has a lot of Trump in her, and you're messing with the wrong person here. Alina, thank you. We appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Hey, Sean Hannity.
So now you'll get to kind of hear the mentality of the morally superior, highly educated among us.
Off with the hot topic of the hour, Vice President J.D. Vance taking a victory lap on the border yesterday with a visit to Eagle Pass, Texas. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, joining Hegseth. All three spoke to the progress made on the border so far. Watch.
It turns out we didn't need new laws. We didn't need fancy legislation. We just needed a new president of the United States. And thank God that's exactly what we have.
The Defense Department has assets that we can bring to bear, not just troops, not just surveillance, not just equipment, but actual planning and capabilities that enhance what Border Patrol is already doing.
Our mission is very clear. Our objective is to keep the American people safe.
Last month, just over 8,000 border encounters were recorded, and that is down from 189,000 last February. Take a look at these numbers. Things have plummeted by 93%. On Capitol Hill, the House Oversight Committee grilling 4 sanctuary city mayors yesterday on how their policies are affecting American citizens. Watch.
You love illegal aliens more than you love your fellow countrymen.
I love all the residents of the city and county.
Mayor,
in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering city
You don't
services,
ask
so
about
we
how
don't
much
have
money
that
the city of Boston has spent.
If you don't ask about status, well, why don't you ask about status? Number one. Number two, if you don't ask about status, how do you know that the budget is going to citizens? And by the way, like, of all demographics, of all backgrounds, who became citizens the legal manner, how do you know that city services, that the city has a budget, the state has a budget, okay? The state of Massachusetts has a budget, okay? So do the cities. Boston, everybody has a budget. You have a budget watching your family. Everybody has a budget that the country does. How do you know that if you don't ask status, how do you know that citizens have enough money, that the city has enough money for its citizens? This is a very simple question. If that's, it's interesting. Simple questions are never answered by the wonderful morally superior in a direct manner. Why don't you ask status? Even let's say that you don't care about the immigration status. Great, but why don't you ask? So there's plausible deniability, tacit approval. Democrats do not actually believe in their value system. That's why they don't want to know how many people, and God bless all the hardworking, wonderful, undocumented and documented individuals. The Democratic Party mentality is, we have to look and feel morally superior. But if you're doing so at the expense of being morally inferior, what's the point?
Spent on illegal immigration? Are you out of your mind?
Between immigration status.
Do you manage your budget or not, Mayor?
That is how we keep our city safe.
do you believe it's acceptable for illegal?
The mayor keeps her city safe by not asking immigration status. How on earth does that keep anyone safe? Again, I want dreamers to become citizens. I'm a little bit more, I'm less conservative on this topic than I am other topics, or perhaps more liberal. But I don't understand. See, here's the thing. The value system of the Democratic Party is don't enforce existing laws. It benefits us politically not to enforce the existing laws, and we can wrap ourselves in a cloak of moral superiority, and we can feel good about doing it. Well, then why don't you pass legislation? Why don't you push legislation instead of focusing on bizarre nonsense where you've tried to dictate civility? They've tried to criminalize and legislate civility, which we won't get into, but let's continue.
Illegals who commit heinous crimes be released back into the public instead of being detained and deported.
Any individual that causes harm and breaks the law
Mayor Wu,
should be held accountable.
This is why you have 6% approval rating, because you suck at answering questions.
Denver's Mayor Mike Johnston pressed for allowing a Tren de Aragua gang member to walk free and allegedly assault federal officers.
They got to send 6 officers to arrest this guy, or you can say, hey, what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold him. You come in and bring 2 officers in, and you turn him over there. Why not do it that way?
We have a city ordinance.
You know why you don't do it that way?
We have a city ordinance that governs.
Because you're a sanctuary city. This is the whole point.
No, sir, I disagree with you.
An officer got assaulted because of your policy.
And then there was new.
Then they fall back on bureaucracy that benefits a political ideology that says do not enforce existing laws, give tacit approval to bending the law to suit your political purposes. There's a political reason. It's not about morality or altruism why Democrats don't want to enforce existing laws. Okay, there's two possibilities. One is that they're altruistic and morally superior, and they're such good people, and they look in the mirror and they say, "Oh, I'm such a good person." Or they benefit politically from not enforcing specific laws. If the mayor of Boston doesn't ask, the status, and most of these cities don't ask immigration status for city, like a social safety net, city services, how on earth do you know you have enough of a budget to take care of citizens? But see, that's not a concern. It's not. The Democratic Party doesn't see documented, undocumented. They just see people, which seems quite moral. It seems like a very beautiful, a wonderful, moral, just, ethical viewpoint. Well, what's the difference? We're all human beings. We're all breathing, but you have specific laws. There, you don't have an infinite budget. Your budget is supposed to. You don't see. We don't allow other countries to just use their pilots to fly our fighter jets. So there are finite resources in terms of city services or state services. How do you know that you have enough money? How do you know you have enough money to protect and to feed and to shelter and to help the citizens of your city or state if you don't ask status? How? There is no answer to that. The answer is they don't care.
New Mexico Democrat Melanie Stansbury of going on a curse-filled rant. Watch.
I always think that we should sage this room after these hearings because we hear a lot of crazy stuff in here. It's total bull, absolute bull. They are not making America safer again, and what they are doing is terrorizing immigrant families.
And this is the distilled version of the morally superior performance art. Notice how she stated immigrant families. Does she mean documented? Does she mean individuals and families and good people who came legally? Or does she mean good people and wonderful human beings who came without the legal status, through perhaps unlawful means, breaking existing U.S. laws? There's no distinction. The moral superiority is such religious fervor, and who knows, maybe she truly believes the nonsense or it's part of a performance art. But the morality play is simply an act, generally, oftentimes an act. If you're enforcing existing immigration laws, Democrats have two choices. If Trump is enforcing existing immigration laws, why doesn't this individual stating that nobody's being safe by Trump, why don't Democrats push legislation to ensure that undocumented immigrants do not get deported? Forget about criminal status or if they committed crimes. Why doesn't this individual here push legislation through Congress to ensure that the immigrants that she's referring to never get deported? And that Democrats can push that legislation and run on it in 26, and they'll lose by an even greater margin than in 24.
Our mayors are sitting here enduring this ridiculous hearing as they've been threatened in front of the American people.
If you don't enforce immigration laws that are existing, and if a state or city does not address federal law, then Alina Habba and Pam Bondi and Trump and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are simply going to enforce existing federal laws. Then people will, if they're not enforcing, if they're deliberately ignoring federal law, will get indicted and imprisoned. That's not despotic. That, again, the Democrats can simply pass legislation amending or erasing the penalties or fines for undocumented immigrants. They don't do that because the Democratic Party itself doesn't truly believe its alleged value system.
This happening as the federal judge is rejecting New York City's request for the Trump administration to return $80 million in FEMA funding earmarked for migrant services. And we all remember when that happened, we were watching American citizens, Tiana, suffer while we find out FEMA is broke. And the money largely went to migrants illegally in this country.
Yeah, it's so funny that the line is that, oh, this isn't making America safer, when the data show that's specifically not true, right? Fentanyl seizures at the southern border are down 50% since Trump took office. We can debate the economic merits of the tariffs in effect, but as a diplomatic tool, they've been demonstrably successful. Canadian northern border crossings down 50%, forcing Claudia Sheinbaum, the leftist president of Mexico, her party is very much beholden to the cartels. They've been finally able to go after 900 members of the Sinaloa cartel. It's why they're sending over 29 wanted cartel operatives to the U.S. So yes, demonstrably, Trump policy is making America safe, and it's a good sign to the House that they can focus on the tax bill. The border can wait because Donald Trump's already doing it on his own.
Oh, what a split screen show, right? You had Pete Hegseth and the J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard at the border. And we all remember the visions that were the case last year. And then you've got these sanctuary city mayors defending the policies.
You know, I think that it might have been some uncertainty. You know, people visit Boston and Denver and Chicago, and they're like, what happened to this city? Yesterday, they found out the answer to their question. What happened was people like those 3 and 4 mayors who really have run their cities into a new level of decay. This was the most tone-deaf hearing, only perhaps surpassed by the college presidents a year ago in that master class by Elise Stefanik. But we saw mayors who were absolutely disconnected from, number one, the mandate the voters gave the Trump administration to eradicate this problem, and their own voters' needs. Michelle Wu, she's afraid of a primary. She's facing an election this year. She's afraid of a primary. She should stop focusing on her fellow Democrats, who she might perceive are her toughest opponents, but she should look at the broader people of Boston and what their sentiment is on this crisis.
This is performance art. These are Democratic politicians pretending to be morally superior, knowing very well they gain politically from their current enforcement of existing laws or lack thereof. Okay, you can't wrap yourself in a cloak of morality when your political party benefits greatly from not enforcing laws that are existing and that Democrats helped pass. If Democrats truly cared about the laws that they aren't enforcing and giving tacit approval to lawbreaking, if they cared, they'd go through legislation in Congress and they'd run on reforming immigration laws. But they don't do that because they know it's not popular nationwide. So they do what they can on a local and city and state level to just bend the law and not enforce immigration laws.
What do you think, Mario?
Absolutely. I think the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, you see since the new administration took office, we had 190,000 illegal immigrants crossing the border. You don't have a country if you don't have a border. No. And I think between that, the fentanyl problems, and you brought up a great point. Walk down, the streets of New York City. You're still not comfortable. We have all these vagrants, and I think at the end of the day, border control is of utmost importance.
And it's gotten better in New York. It feels a little better.
Little better.
Capitol Hill, the mayors of 4 sanctuary cities, Boston, Denver, Chicago, and New York, are all testifying at a House oversight hearing. And we've been covering this. We did last hour on the Faulkner Focus. It's gotten spicy at times. Republicans, I should say, are accusing these mayors of turning a blind eye to the law, wasting millions of illegal aliens, or millions of dollars on those illegal aliens instead of American citizens. It didn't take long for things to get like this.
Let's talk about Tom Homan. Shame on him for lying about my city.
Say the Democrats were shame on it. It's this morally superior. You have lifelong Democrats who disown friends and family. Okay, they don't go to Thanksgiving. It's like an atheistic political religion. The shame should be on not enforcing laws specifically passed to protect citizens. That's where the shame should be leveled. But anyway, let's continue.
For having the nerve to insult our police commissioner who has overseen the safest Boston's been in anyone's lifetime. Bring him here under oath and let's ask him some questions.
Well, we can really get into it about how safe Boston has been. I know you've been doing a lot of reporting on the border. What do you say, Griff?
Well, you know what's crazy, and I'm glad to see this happen.
So the safest Boston has been in anyone's lifetime. That's a very Democratic Party way of saying, compared to really bad times, we're actually not that bad. What on earth does that have to do with keeping people safe? It's always this, Democrats view their morality on a curve, okay? Well, we're better than Trump. Well, you're not by a long shot, but, oh, it's the best since you can remember. Not really, but okay. What does that even mean? Are people safe in these Democratic-run cities? Is crime rampant? Are specific categories of crime like assault, are they higher than ever before? Do you feel safe walking down the street? Is there a homeless problem in every major Democratic city? And they do nothing about it. These are the morally superior, highly educated. Do nothing about it. Is there a problem with narcotics? I mean, is it overcrowded? And why is it overcrowded? Perhaps you let in individuals who did not legally file for citizenship.
If you go back in 2015, when Kate Steinle was killed on a pier by an illegal alien named Jose Garcia Zarate, he had been deported 5 previous times with multiple convictions in the San Francisco sanctuary city, released him. And I'll give President Trump this credit. He was a candidate in 2015, 2016, and he said about this case, he said, this is an absolute disgrace. Nobody has the guts to talk about it. It won't happen if I become president. He wasn't able to reign in sanctuary cities in his first term. It ran rampant under the Biden administration. And now you're seeing President Trump with a mandate pushing on Congress to try and bring this under control. How many people have died or been raped or had horrendous crimes carried against them since we didn't learn that lesson? And it's unbelievable. It's often, in the border world, people say sanctuary cities are simply sanctuary cities for criminals. And that's what it's become. And you and I were just talking about.
So there's a lot of great, beautiful, amazing, hardworking, undocumented immigrants. The issue is not, and Trump has no issue with these people in terms of, them being human beings and hardworking and wonderful, other than you have to follow existing laws. That's all. And furthermore, Democrats say, well, undocumented commit crimes at a lower rate, lesser rate. Really? How did you lie and deceive about that data? Most crimes are committed in any country of the world by men aged 18 to 40. 18 to 35. In every country of the world. Okay? In every prison in the world, it's 18 to 35. Okay? And it's generally men. Okay. So what is the data on undocumented 18 to 35 compared to citizens 18 to 35? And we're talking men. I don't know that data. If you add the elderly and children and women and children to aggregate data, you might get a lower proportion. But see, Democrats work with everything is based on per capita. But you look at California or New York, the most populous states in the country, and then they say, well, per capita, the crime rate. It's like, yeah, but within the lowest, within the areas of greatest poverty, now focus Democrats, within the areas of greatest poverty in California and New York and other populous blue states, the crime rate is through the roof. Why is that? And Second Amendment laws are not followed. Why is that? Of course, because everything from homicides to burglaries are correlated directly to poverty, not to gun laws. But hit subscribe if you're new.
They need a sanctuary because they can do anything they want to do all over the country.
It doesn't make sense. If I were a member of Congress at this hearing, I would ask all four of those people, how did we get here? How did we not learn the lesson of Kate Steinle? And why in the world can releasing criminal migrants back into the happen for?
So this is Tom Homan, I think, responding or addressing the mayor of Boston.
So one of the things that we do expect to hear tonight from President Trump is the request to Congress for more money for border security when he gives his address to the joint session of Congress just hours from now. So White House officials saying that will be part of the speech this evening. Tomorrow, the mayors of New York, Boston, Chicago, and Denver will be testifying before lawmakers on the Oversight Committee about the migrant crackdown and ICE actions and all of these things that they have run into headwinds on in these cities that consider themselves sanctuary cities. With that, we bring in Border Czar Tom Homan. Good to see you, as always, sir. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to get to what we're going to see tomorrow in this hearing. But first, with regard to tonight, I understand that you are the guest of Speaker Johnson. How do you feel about the one big beautiful bill, and would it have in it what you need for the border?
Well, I think so. I think I met with a lot of members up on the Hill. I think they want to get us that one bill. They want to fund border security. Look, we got illegal crossings down 97%. But we need more money to make that permanent, get it down to 100%, have zero gotaways. We got a massive deportation operation we got to run. We need more beds. We need more airplane flights. We need more officers. And look, we got 300,000 missing children we got to find. So we need money to get all these things done for the president.
300,000. Where is AOC? And I don't even want to get to the rebuttal from the fact checking. It is so outlandish. 300,000 missing young people. And the Biden administration and liberal Democrats and the wonderful morally superior journalists, the rebuttal is, it's a paperwork issue. Then the question is, why don't you know their locations? This is unbelievably absurd. 300,000, and they acknowledge in the fact check that nobody knows where they are. Within the actual fact check, it's an acknowledgement of zero knowledge of the location. And the rebuttal is, that's misleading. How on earth is it misleading within your own fact check? You're acknowledging that Trump and Homan are correct. Where's AOC? Crying at a chain link fence. Where is she? The Democrats have a moral superiority shtick. It's this performance art. It is so vapid and it's insidious. It is sinister because the basis of the whole moral superiority nonsense is political gain. There could be some actual moral concerns. That's true. But the underlying the foundation of all of this is political gain. Democrats benefit from not enforcing laws. They benefit from undocumented immigrants politically.
Yeah, indeed. That is a big issue, and we're hoping that it's going to be addressed as well. We want to continue to follow up with you on that story of these children that were basically pushed out of the shelters and into the hands of some pretty suspicious individuals. So we look forward to hearing more on that. With regard to the mayors who are going to be speaking tomorrow, you've had a lot of back and forth with Boston. Here is the Massachusetts governor, Maura Healey, basically saying that you don't get it. You don't understand what's going on in her state. Watch this.
This guy, Holman, is just
as a lot in the Trump administration do, just making up a bunch of stuff and trying to start something, trying to pick a fight. So it seems to me you shouldn't be threatening to bring, what was it? Hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, whatever.
Would you meet Tom Homan if he came?
Of course I would. Yeah, it sounds like I might need to explain a few things to him as somebody who investigated and prosecuted crimes, including with federal authorities.
Here we go. Here we go. Just like Kamala Harris and all the wonderful Democratic Party prosecutors. Harris, by the way, prosecuted and convicted an innocent black man. But the Democrats like to say, well, I was a former prosecutor. Yeah, then why aren't you enforcing existing laws? They use that I'm a former prosecutor. Okay. If a Democrat says I'm a former prosecutor, then why is Tom Homan and Trump and Alina Habba and Pam Bondi, why are they all saying, hey, these are federal laws? Could it be possible that Democrats in Boston are not, and I'm not accusing any Democrat in Boston of not enforcing existing laws, but could it be possible that they're bending laws because it suits them politically? Is that even possible? Lord, no. Of course that's not possible.
Number of years here. Maybe he doesn't have the benefit of that knowledge.
All right, I just want to put up on the screen as you respond to this. These are migrants who re-offended in Massachusetts after they ignored ICE detainer requests. What do you have to say to the governor of Massachusetts, Tom?
Look, I forgot more about this issue than she'll ever know, first of all. Second of all, I am bringing hell to Boston. I'm bringing hell to illegal aliens that rape children. And she should be bringing hell to the same population. I said during my last speech, I stopped at 9 people that raped children. They're in the country illegally that ICE had to find on the streets because they failed to honor detainers, both in Boston and throughout the state of Massachusetts.
And what is the rebuttal from a Boston Democrat or a national Democrat? What is the rebuttal? What on earth can they say? Oh, well, studies show, data shows that in aggregate, the numbers actually benefit our viewpoint. But that doesn't address the issue of a human being that should not have been in the United States of America. This is not a difficult thing to understand. We have existing immigration laws. Simply, if you're a Democrat and you don't think those existing immigration laws are or moral or constitutional, pass legislation in the House. Run on it in 26. You will lose the House in 26, and they will lose every national contest. Why? Because most Americans do not subscribe to the moral superiority performance art of Democrats. Human beings entering any country need to be vetted. You can't just simply go to Japan, or you simply can't go to Nigeria. You can't just walk into maybe in Europe, but you can't just walk into most countries in the world and demand that you be accepted, and if you commit a crime, not get deported. But the issue is that you want to make sure that a person doesn't have a criminal background or mental issues or factors that could lead the individual to committing a heinous crime. Okay, simply saying, well, the data shows is not a rebuttal. It's the most immoral, morally superior nonsense you've ever heard.
So if anybody needs to learn something, she needs to learn that you don't release child rapists back into the community to reoffend against children. That's what I'm bringing hell to. I'm bringing hell to those people who violated this child, and these children will never be the same. Their families will never be the same. She should be shoulder to shoulder with me on this. As a governor or mayor of that city, they all should be on the same page. Remove public safety threats from the communities. Their number one responsibility is protection of the communities, and that's what President Trump is committed to. President Trump has told us, prioritize the worst of the worst. Prioritize public safety threats.
The number one responsibility of a morally superior Democrat in any major blue state or city is to promote the political party. The Republicans don't really work that way because the Republicans don't have the same type of political party. The Democratic Party is a machine. It is like Tammany Hall in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's a machine, and it runs on a this performance art, this acting, this theater of like a morally superior, good, just, kind marketing. It's a complete farce. They don't even have functioning primaries, and they benefit politically from not enforcing existing immigration laws. So that removes the altruism. It's not about altruism or helping human beings. It's about ignoring the most heinous atrocities because you want your political party to remain in power. That's what really it's all about.
Prioritize national security threats. This should be a nonpartisan issue. So if anybody needs to be educated, it needs to be heard, and I'm coming to Boston, and I'm going to do exactly that.
Well, she is looking forward to meeting you, it sounds like. One of the things that is a big concern is the leaking of information on these raids. And I know that you're very concerned that your agents are putting their lives on the line, maybe more than they have in the past even, because some of these officials are leaking that your folks are coming.
Look, their job is already dangerous. I did that job. I know it's like to wear that badge and gun and go in a dangerous situation, but when they get a heads up, the bad people know we're coming. It's only a matter of time for officers to get ambushed, and we're going to be burying an officer because he leaks. We're taking the leaks serious. They will be fired, and they will be prosecuted. We're done with this. Done.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. I think there's going to be some interesting back and forth at this hearing with these mayors. Tom Homan, thank you very much, in charge of the ICE and working on the border for us as he has been for his entire career.
Are on the line, and these mayors aren't just violating their oaths of office. They could be violating a federal law that prohibits harboring known criminals.
So the Democrats have routinely, for years, gone after Trump for technicalities. But Trump doesn't even have to go after Democrats for technicalities. These are federal laws that need to be enforced, and they're in the books. And they're not being enforced by Democratic mayors.
And obstructing federal law enforcement. Joining me now, Trump border czar Tom Homan. Tom, now you've been personally called out by the Boston mayor, Michelle Wu, for her sanctuary policies. Well, she also had a response. Watch.
I am bringing hell to Boston. I'm bringing hell to illegal aliens that rape children. That's what I'm bringing hell to. I'm bringing hell to those people who violate. Now I want to sleep.
To make sure that for having the. Let's talk about Tom Homan. Shame on him for lying about my city, for having the nerve to insult our police commissioner who has overseen the safest Boston's been in anyone's lifetime. Bring him here under oath and let's ask him some questions.
What if substance was just stated? What was actually stated other than we're angry with you? What specific thing did the mayor state that Homan said was wrong? Nothing.
I am here to make sure that the city of Boston is safe. Others may want to bring hell. We are here to bring peace to cities everywhere.
Why would you want to bring you-know-what to ensure laws are being enforced? We are here to bring peace. It's just, again, this is a marketing, this is acting, marketing, selling. Democrats sell a morally superior theatrical performance. This is a theatrical, that's why Hollywood and Democrats are like, in unison. That's why they're aligned so closely with each other. We're here to bring peace. The whole point of the hearing was because immigration laws were not enforced and citizens suffered in various ways through atrocities or through lack of budget. And this is like such an easy thing. Again, if Democrats wanted, they could pass federal legislation. They could run on federal legislation. They don't. They do so in a surreptitious manner. They don't truly believe their value system.
Boston should be ashamed of her. Tom, your reaction?
Look, I was on an airplane today. I didn't see that hearing, but thank you for playing that, because now I'm going to sleep like a baby. Because if I can get to live in her mind rent-free every day, that's kind of cool. I love my job. I work for the greatest president in my lifetime. We're making America safe again. President Trump promised American people we're going to shut down illegal alien crime in this country. That's exactly what we're doing. Mayor Wu should be standing side by side with me. Who does not want to bring hell to an illegal alien that raped a child? Not one, many of them. I stopped counting that.
So I got the algorithm here. It's like these heinous atrocities are not conducive to the algorithm. Okay, so let's continue.
Up there did a one-day operation. We took 7 TDA members off the street. We took 2 illegal aliens that were convicted of murder that they released, took them off the street. We arrested 6.
But these atrocities, by the way, are not the concern of Democratic mayors. So you can have like young people, losing their lives on the streets of any major cities, Chicago, Boston, New York, LA. It really, the way Democrats work is, the aggregate numbers. But the aggregate numbers don't address the regions of poverty within a state of 20, 30, 40 million people. Democrats deceive themselves and others by focusing on aggregate data or per capita data, the rate of something. And then you don't realize, okay, there are other factors when you're talking about these types of statistics. So poverty rates increase, places within blue states, regions or cities or counties that have the highest poverty rate also have the highest crime, the highest homicides. Democrats don't address that. They just say, look at our state data. And they don't address the economic repercussions of undocumented immigrants in relation to citizens. Okay, and by the way, the Democratic Party views like specific cultures and demographics and ethnicities as like they're representing them. Like, no, you're not. Democrats are not representing the constituents that they, nationwide that they think that they're representing.
6 child predators took them off to the streets of Chicago. ICE is making every one of those cities safer because they're releasing public safety threats back into the public. That in itself is just stupid policy, and we're going to keep going. Look, they can hate me all they want. We're coming. I said I'm going to bring hell. I meant it. I'm going to stand by it, and I'm going to do it. We're going to take child predators off the streets of these cities where they don't want to do it.
Well, you guys are going as fast as you can with deportation, but we obviously need a lot more, a lot faster. We have tens of thousands a week, ideally. But these mayors, Tom, insist that their cities are safer. Watch.
City is also safer because of our Welcoming City Ordinance. That law makes sure that the city's police resources are focused on our local priorities. Chicago's Welcoming City Ordinance and our other laws and policies do not lead to more crime.
Tom, how is welcoming criminal illegals into your city supposed to lower their crime?
Look, we took 2 murders off the streets of Chicago. Is that city safer? We took child predators off the streets of Chicago.
What Democrats do is they say, well, look, we're safer than in 2020 and 2021. Yeah, when Democratic governors shut down economic activity, shut down their states, and there was chaos and people lost their lives in a variety of ways. And so crime went through the roof after people who were preemptively pardoned pushed Democrats, and Democrats were more than happy to shut down economic activity because a whole bunch of smart people said there was a consensus to do so. So compared to 2020, crime is down. Well, yeah, crime hit, decade highs after you shut down economic activity. Yet another way of lying in aggregate data.
That makes that city safer. We took, like I said, I think it was 7 or 9 TDA members off the streets of Chicago. Does that make that city safer? Look, he's ignorant. And these mayors just don't get it. President Trump made a promise we're going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. That's exactly what we're doing. We're at about 30,000 arrests. Most of them are public safety threats. There are some collaterals, and why is that? Because people like him and the mayor of Boston and the mayor of Denver, they don't let us arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of county jail where the officer's safe, the alien's safe, the community's safe. They release him in the community. So we got to go to the community and find him. And when we find that bad guy, if he's with other illegal aliens that aren't a criminal threat, but they're in the country illegally, they're going too.
So instead of allowing ICE or federal agents to arrest an individual, an undocumented individual who perhaps committed a crime in a jail, the city in the most petulant manner, the blue state city in the most petulant manner, allows the individual to leave the jail. Then federal authorities have to go and find the individual. Then, in the typical Democratic Party manner, anyone around that individual is also deported. So you're actually hurting the same people that you claim to want to help. If you're this wonderful, morally superior Democratic Party mayor.
So what they're doing is getting exactly what they don't want. More agents in the communities, more collateral arrests because they force in this position. I'll say it again. They're not going to stop us. We're going to do this job. And if they cross the line, they'll be held accountable. We got Pam Bondi now as Attorney General. She's going to take a strong stance. She's already suing these sanctuary cities. We're going to do this job for the American people. We're not going to apologize for doing it.
Well, Mad Maxine, Tom, is finally talking about illegal immigration and crime. But she's specifically talking about the victims that President Trump mentioned last night. Check this out.
Really did not like the way he used the tragic incidents and the families that were there, who of course appreciated, what they think is their president caring about what happened, to the 12-year-old and to others who were victims. And we all feel sad and bad for them, but he misused them. He misused them. And what he did was he focused on them instead of focusing on the real issues.
Tom?
How can you misuse the reality of the most heinous crimes committed by an individual who should not be in the country? If laws were enforced, then you would have innocent citizens not be brutalized in these instances. That doesn't mean that undocumented immigrants are bad people. See, the Democrats, they cannot have two different viewpoints at once because it messes with the artificial intelligence morally superior software. You can acknowledge, you don't think Trump Republicans, Trump supporters, everyone acknowledges that there are good, hardworking, beautiful, amazing, wonderful, undocumented immigrants. The issue is existing immigration laws and resources and, actually enforcing laws in the books. Then there's the topic of individuals who should not have been in the country, 18 to 40-year-old, which is the demographic, men 18 to 40, the demographic of any prison in any country of the world, not being vetted and coming into the country and perhaps in numerous instances committing the most barbaric, evil, insidious, despicable atrocity, most evil atrocities possible. You're not misusing that for political gain. You're explaining, look, this happened. We need to prevent this from taking place. But Democrats don't see it that way because, look, the bottom line, it doesn't benefit the Republican Party to remove undocumented immigrants who committed crimes. They're not getting more, they're not winning local, state, and federal contests because of that. It's actually a value system they believe in, and if a voter also believes in that, then they'll choose the Republican. It benefits the Democrat in allowing these things to take place and ignoring them and allowing as many individuals as possible who are undocumented into the country. It literally benefits their political party, according to Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and others. The Democrats are not doing it for altruistic. They don't even have functioning primaries. So that's why they fight against voter ID laws. Not because they care. Oh, you don't want to disenfranchise people. They work so hard to disenfranchise RFK Jr., to his voters. They work so hard to Bernie Sanders. They literally cheated Biden. He won his primary. How many millions of people were disenfranchised when they chose Biden to represent the Democratic Party in 24? So it's like all this vapid, sophomoric, Orwellian semantic game. Oh, we're moral. No, you're not. You'd have to be an imbecile to just think that, the Democratic Party is based on morality. See, the Republicans used to be the old stodgy, old never-Trumpers. They lost because they were the ones who preached and pontificated and lectured and condemned and judged, and they were the ones that had a moral. And politics is not about, if you want to go to church or a place of worship and talk about morality, and that's generally where that was discussed and addressed. Politics is about what's good for the country. It's not about a morally superior performance art. But anyway, let's continue.
Real issues. I mean, give me a break. Americans are dying. I've met hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children. Another congressman talked to Homan, the architect of family separation. Yeah, we separated families because we prosecuted parents and the children can't go to jail with them. That happens to U.S. citizen parents hundreds of times across this country every day. But they don't talk about the 500,000 children that were trafficked into this country. They can't find 300,000 of them. They're in sex trafficking and forced labor. Not a word about that. That whole Democratic Party remains silent on that. Shame on them.
And as always, Democrats get away with the absolute worst atrocities. 300,000 young people missing under Democrats. Not one word from AOC. Do you think any morally superior Democrat isn't going to Thanksgiving and denying their friendship to another Democrat for voting for Biden after 300,000 young people are missing? And the fact checks do not address, I don't even want to get into the fact check. It's so Orwellian. Oh, it's a paperwork issue. Yeah, why is it a paperwork issue? Do you want to elaborate on that? Please explain, because you'd be digging a deeper hole in terms of your moral superiority charade. How on earth do Democrats get away with laptops, servers, 300,000 missing? It's complete chaos. It's rampant chaos with Democrats, and they just get away with it. They still have a public relations monstrosity. In terms of morality, what they've presided over, these wars, these, crime, homelessness, rampant inflation, shutting down economic activity, preemptively pardoning everyone, they get away with everything. And the fact that they still have a somewhat functioning political party, it's now almost in complete dysfunction. The fact that they have this political party functioning somewhat is unbelievable. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually really huge news. I know it takes time to process. Hey, this is actually happening. Like, what? He's going to get indicted eventually? These people will very likely either get indicted or people around them will get prosecuted, indicted, prosecuted, convicted. And this is serious stuff. Hit subscribe, share this everywhere. I'll be back later this evening for another live stream. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you later this evening for the live stream to my super